On a crisp autumn morning, in a small, quiet village nestled deep in the countryside, life carried on as it always had. The air smelled of fresh earth and hay, while the sun began its slow climb over the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the fields. A local farmer, Tim Barker, was out early as usual, tending to his cattle and preparing his modest farm for the day ahead. Tim had lived in the village all his life, a simple man with simple needs. He worked hard, raised his crops, and kept to himself mostly, finding solace in the peace and quiet of rural life. His farm was a modest one, far from the bustle of city life, and the closest he got to excitement was the occasional visitor who'd stop by to ask for directions or to buy some fresh produce. But that day, everything was about to change. As Tim was fixing a fence near the edge of his property, he heard a car rumbling down the dusty road that led through the fields. It was a luxury vehicle, black and sleek, its windows tinted so that Tim couldn't make out who was inside. He noticed it slow down as it neared the farm, the driver appearing to be having trouble with something. Curious, Tim walked over, wiping his hands on his overalls, expecting to offer some help. The car came to a stop, and the door opened. Out stepped a man who seemed vaguely familiar, yet Tim couldn't place him. He was tall, with a well-built frame, dressed casually in a black hoodie, jeans, and a pair of sunglasses that were almost too cool for the morning sun. The man looked around, seemingly frustrated, and started pacing back and forth. It was clear that something was wrong. "Hey there!" Tim called out from the edge of his field. "You need a hand?" The man stopped and turned towards him, taking off his sunglasses. "Yeah, actually. My car's acting up, and I'm not sure what's wrong with it. I was hoping to find someone who could help me out." Tim scratched his head, looking at the expensive car with skepticism. "Well, I don't know much about high-tech engines, but I can try to take a look. Maybe it's just something simple." The stranger smiled, relieved. "I appreciate it, really. You're a lifesaver." Tim approached the car, and after a quick look under the hood, he realized the issue was a loose connection in the electrical system. Tim wasn't a mechanic, but over the years, he'd learned how to fix just about anything that came his way. He worked his magic, tightening the connection and making a few minor adjustments. The engine hummed back to life, and the man's eyes lit up with gratitude. "You've got some skills," the stranger said, his tone full of genuine appreciation. "Thanks, mate. You've saved me a lot of hassle today." Tim chuckled, wiping his hands on his shirt. "I'm just a farmer. I do what I can. Glad I could help." The man extended his hand with a firm grip. "I'm Jason," he said simply. "Jason?" Tim blinked, trying to process the name. It sounded familiar, but in that moment, he couldn't make the connection. "Nice to meet you, Tim." Jason smiled again. "I owe you one, Tim. If there's ever anything I can do for you, just let me know." Tim shook his head, his smile wide. "No need for that, mate. I'm just happy to help." With a nod, Jason climbed back into his car, gave Tim a final wave, and drove off down the dirt road, leaving a trail of dust behind him. Tim stood there for a moment, watching the car disappear into the distance. Something about the encounter felt odd, but he brushed it off. After all, people helped each other all the time. Nothing unusual about that. Weeks passed, and life on the farm returned to its usual rhythm. Tim didn't think much about the mysterious man named Jason, until one day, as he was sitting at the local pub, enjoying a pint after a long day of work, he overheard a conversation between a couple of locals. "You see that new action movie? The one with Jason Statham? It's supposed to be incredible," one man said. Tim froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. Jason Statham? The name clicked in his mind, and suddenly, everything fell into place. The man he had helped on his farm wasn't just a stranger, he was a Hollywood action star. He had no idea at the time, of course. Tim didn't keep up with celebrities, and the sunglasses, casual clothes, and lack of a flashy entourage had thrown him off. But now it all made sense. As the realization settled in, Tim couldn't help but smile to himself. He had just helped one of the biggest stars in the world, and he hadn't even known it. What happened next was the true surprise. A few weeks later, Tim received a letter in the mail, hand-delivered by a messenger in a sleek suit. Tim opened the envelope, and inside was a note from Jason Statham himself. "Dear Tim, I wanted to personally thank you once again for your help with my car. It was a real pleasure meeting you, and I owe you more than just a handshake. You've got a great thing going with your farm, and I want to help. I've arranged for a full renovation of your barn and some equipment upgrades. Consider it a gift for your generosity. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to visit again sometime. Best regards, Jason Statham." Tim sat back in his chair, stunned. The last thing he had expected from helping a stranger was a personal note from Jason Statham, not to mention a renovation for his farm. He could hardly believe it. The following week saw contractors arriving at Tim's farm, completely overhauling his barn, upgrading his equipment, and even providing some much-needed resources to expand his operation. The generosity and kindness Jason had shown were beyond anything Tim could have imagined. What started as a simple act of helping someone in need had blossomed into a life-changing experience. Tim never did meet Jason again, but he often thought back to that day with a sense of wonder. It wasn't just the car that needed fixing, it was the unexpected kindness of a stranger that had changed his life forever. And all because Tim had chosen to help someone, not knowing who they were, or the incredible chain of events that would follow.